got married. So ish shenailed. What? We're talking about the woman. What about an ish, the man, the male? Shenailed the bone woman that he happens to have defects. Ain koifin oisei lahaitzi. If he has defects, we do not force him to divorce. In other words, if divorce and so on is one thing, but we don't force him to divorce, as we'll see later, because we believe that a woman can put up with it. Amar Hashem, as we learned yesterday, a few days ago, but Shlokir said, that they're happy to have the companionship. Amar Hashem, when do we say that? When it comes to minor mumin, because that people can tolerate. With major flaws, we force him to divorce her, and according to Taisus and other training, they even have to give a ksuvah. Even though when you force the husband to do something, why should he have to give a ksuvah? But in this case, because it's his fault, he's the one who has the woman, therefore he has to give a ksuvah. Says the Gemara, we have two versions of the Tanakhama's view. The Mishnah says a person who had woman. Rabbi Yehuda Tani no do. Rabbi Yehuda says that that they came about after they got married, after they got engaged, and therefore we don't force. But if, let's say, they came about before they got married, and she just wasn't aware of it, then then the whole thing's like a mekartos. Chiyabarav Tani hayu. Even if the woman existed before. Man no do, the one who says no do that was born afterwards, Choshken, how you surely they were there before, surely he grounds to divorce. He didn't inform him. The Kesavra, or even if she was aware of it, the Kesavra, she thought that she can accept the Kibla as Makabal. Sorry. Man the one who said that were existing before. I will no do lie, but if they came about afterwards, after they got married, then she's stuck with it. Tonight we learned only by minor women, large ones. If it's very large women, we say that even though it happened, as we'll soon see, still you have to divorce. No do that they came about after they would get married. I knew the shiny big it makes sense, isn't it? Small and large. If it's small and minor ones, it's not a big deal, but if it's big ones, okay. They were there before. Malik daily, Malik Tani. What's the difference of the mind? One says what? How you were there before, and therefore we don't force the husband. Only ones that were there before. No, it's like this. The Tanakhama says that if we don't force the husband to divorce her, if there was woman. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's only that that even if these women came about afterwards, we don't force them to divorce. According to Chibarav, only woman that pre-existed, so she knew about it, and therefore she accepted it. But if it's a new woman, she can't take it. But then Kol Hashem Gamliel says that by I guess a serious woman, we force him to divorce. If we're talking about women that existed beforehand, what's the chilik serious and not serious? If she knew about it, she accepted it. So what's the chilik? Why do you make a distinction between the two? Malik Tani, Malik Doilim, Hasavra Kibla, she accepted it. Says the Gemara, no, we still have another svara which says Kisvuri she thought that she can live with it, and she realized that she can't. Now, the Elohim Mumik Doilim, what's a typical Mum Gadol that we say that you can no longer tolerate? The Gemara, Peter Shemulil Kigoin Nismis Ein Noi suddenly became blind. Nikta Yoda, he was amputated. His arm of an Ishber Ragli broke his foot. He could no longer really walk properly. These are women that these are called Mimim Gedailin, and she can therefore later on say, I can't take this anymore. Allah Hashem Gamil, there's a difference between that large woman, she can say, I can't put up with it. And therefore we force the husband to divorce her. Rava says, that we don't force the husband as a woman, we do not force the husband to divorce her. And we just had a machlekes whether only by women that she knew about before, or even women that came about after, she had no idea, she's stuck. Me Amar Rabbi Yechon Hachid Rabbi Yechon say that wherever we have Shon Rav Shmuel, which is saying Allah Gemara say everywhere that Rav Shmuel raises an opinion, Allah is always like him. Chutz 3 exceptions, Eid of Tzidin Raya Acharena, which will have us in Hedge and Git and so on. So those are only. In other words, why does Rabbi Yechon have to go out and say the halacha is like Rav Shmuel Gamliel? The halacha, Rabbi Yechon himself said the halacha is always like Rav Shmuel Gamliel, except in 3 instances. So why bother telling us now the halacha Shmuel Gamliel? As the Gemara, Amaroi Ninu V'Lib Rabbi Yechon. There are two opinions whether Rabbi Yechon actually said the halacha was always like Rav Shimon Gamliel or not, and therefore the one who says that Rabbi Yechon said this case, the halacha Shimon Gamliel means, but generally there's no such rule that the halacha is always like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay. Then the Mishnah continues, the following, the following ones, we actually do force the husband to the divorcer because a woman cannot tolerate it. Somebody afflicted with boils. Ubal polyphus, we'll see in the Gemara what about polyphysis. And somebody gathers together, we'll see dung from excrements from a dog. Somebody who bangs down copper, or we'll see later is an opinion that it means actually, we'll see later what it means. Bursi is usually a tanner, and we'll see later what it means here. Bain shahoyu actually, even if these trades, whatever it is, existed prior to the marriage, so she was totally aware of it. Or bain mission needs to know whether it happened after the marriage. Nevertheless, Al Kulon and all of them. Even though he clearly told her, better yet, he told her, I want you to know that I have this and this flaw. And she accepted it. She can say, Svura Yisi Shan Yechoyle Kabul. At the time I was young and naive, and I thought, I love him so much I can put up with it. But actually now that we're living together, you can see Eini Yechoyle Kabul. She can say, I can no longer endure this, I can no longer tolerate this, I cannot accept it. And therefore we force him to divorce. Trace already asked. If so, he arranged the question. If so, every single woman who, let's say, doesn't like her husband will say, "Oh, there's a mum there that I cannot take." Let's say in all of these cases, it might be just a case of harama, not that she cannot take it, but she lost interest in this guy or she found another man. So therefore, she comes up along and says, "I can't take this anymore," and it remains the tzarachin. And Tesha says, you're right. If there's a chash or arama, we won't force the guy to divorce him. Tesha doesn't understand Tesha's question. The guy who has the flaws is taking a risk. He knew lechatchila, he told her, this might happen, and yet he's prepared to go ahead. So nobody's cheating anybody because he knew that there's a risk that some people cannot take this, and he knew that there are people that they think they can and they will change. So therefore, there's no harami here. Harami is when you walked into 100% thinking one way and then she tricks you. Here, you knew that this has risks. Anyway, let's continue the next Mishnah. Continue the Mishnah. That's what Amir says. However, the Chacham say, nope. If she knew about it beforehand, she's mekabel bal korcha whether she likes it or not. Chutz is only one exception. Mukashchin. Why is a mukashchin somebody afflicted with shchin over here is more like leprosy than boils? Whenever they have relations, parts of him fall off. So what? So the problem is that she is causing him damage, and even though he's happy to have her and she's happy to stay, we're going to intervene and force them because she's causing him damage. Comes along the Feresh Yisrael on this Mishnah, and he says, "Mekan." From here, I learn out if there's a cholera or any other pandemic in any situation, you're not allowed to use Jewish doctors because you're endangering their lives. You're not allowed to use Jewish carers if there's during kind of pandemic. If you need any help, you must call Goyim and not Yidden, because you call Yidden, you might cause them damage, or they might cause you, and you're not allowed to. But just like here, we don't let a pandemic, it spreads. We don't let the woman and the mukashchin to be together, even though they want to be together. They want to be together. A very interesting thing is. So he says here, I haven't seen anybody quote it, but the phrase saw mekan nidli raya. From here is a proof. If there's a pandemic, afilu safik mizdabekis kechaleria ukadema, even though you're not 100% sure there's a pandemic, osur liskar Yisraelim l'shamshay oy lekaba meson. You're not allowed to call a Jewish carer. You're not allowed to use any help you need, and they bring a whole bunch of proofs to that point. Fascinating. But I'll tell you, there's another interesting thing in the Gemara here, which is very relevant to the pandemic we just had. That is, we'll talk about in a few minutes. Says the Gemara further, the Chum disagree. They say that you don't force him to divorce in these instances, and except in this case here because he's causing him harm. Ma'aseh b'Tzidin is a story in Tzidin b'Bursi Echad the Tanner. Shemeis, he died, and Tanners have terrible smell. Yet she was happy to be with him. But they're childless, so he had a brother Bursi also in the same profession. Omru Chachamim, you can say, Lachicha, I love him so much. I was prepared to put up with it. Lacha, even though you're the same profession, I can still say you, I don't have to accept it. And therefore, it's grounds for that to say, we force it. Says let's go through each one of the diseases. And my balpolip is what is that? That is a terrible odor coming from the nostrils. What is that? The Mastinit the Bryce we learned reach hapeh. The Batzanuda only brings reach hapeh. That's the final. And yeah, it means a bad breath. Rav Asi Masne Ivcha. Rav Asi learned the other way around. He made a simon. No, he's the way he says that Shmuel is the one who says it was the bad breath. And the simon is Shmuel like pasik pumem mekula pirkin. Shmuel never stopped learning this perek. You see Shmuel's name come up quite often in Perek Hamadir. So this is one of his interesting. Even though he learned to call it Perek, he loved this particular perek very much, and therefore Shmuel's the one with the peh. Shmuel's the one who spoke about it, and therefore he's the one who said bad breath. Okay. Interesting. Every time you have Shmuel's name, Rav is what will argue. So why is Shmuel more the pirkin than Rav? But anyway, Hamekame, what's Mekame? It's Omar Hamekame, it's somebody who gathers together the feces from a dog. And Rashi, interesting, says, I don't know what it's for, what it was used for. And then the Rashi says, maybe it was used for tanners. They used to soak the leather in that. He said that he saw in Ashkelon, he saw in Germany. Rashi says, I saw in Germany that they used to soak the clothes before they washed it a day or two in animal feces. It was used like a chemical to remove heavy stains. Interesting. Rashi doesn't bring you about what I just told you about the tanner, even though Rashi in other places does, and all the Mepharshim want to Kiveg and others want to know why Rashi here doesn't bring the Pshat he brings in other places. Anyway, I was thinking about it further. Mesha asks a question. So you say Mekametz, somebody gathers together the feces of a dog. It says in the Baraisa, Mekametz a bursi. Mekametz is a tanner. So the Gemara says, so you're asking me a question. Does that make sense? Our Mishnah clearly says, look at our Mishnah. It says Hamekametz, which whatever that is, the Hametzarev Nechosh of Habursi. So it's clearly from our Mishnah that Bursi and Mekametz are two things. Okay, and the Mishnah I can understand why is the Mishnah if it means that Mekametz is tanner, then why does because the Braisa says a tanner, there's I guess a big production, and then there's a poor person who has only one piece of hide or two pieces of hide. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda Kasha. What bothers me is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said that Mekametz is not a tanner at all. It's somebody who collects feces of a dog. Yet it says clearly in the Braisa here that and the Braisa says clear Mekametz a bursi. Says the Gemara. Kasha Tanoim must be Machlei Tanoim. The time you learn Mekametz a bursi, Hashem is a Mekametz a club. Machlei Tanoim. What's Metzarev Nechoshes? What kind of profession is that? Rabashi says, Chashli Dudi, somebody who bangs copper the whole time and he makes all kinds of copper pots, and it seems to have a terrible foul smell. Somebody's mining and you're digging up copper, it has a terrible odor. Somebody was mining. Rav said, if a man says, so we're talking about the cases, so our Mishnah limits the cases when we force a man to divorce his wife. So Rav says, if a man says, I'm not going to provide for my wife, the Einim Befarnas, I'm not going to take care of her, I'm not going to give her a dowry for a kid, and all that. What kind of life is that? We force him to go out and to give a ksuba. Also, Rav, that's what Rav said. Also, Rav Allah said, we said this over before Shmuel, and Amar said, Achsu Sadi le'elazar. I want, he didn't say, he was respectful, didn't say it about Rav. He said to Elazar, you should go ahead and chew barley. What nonsense. If you're going to force him to intervene, why force him to divorce? Force him to feed her. If you're really going to force, why break up a marriage? Force him that he should take care of his wife. No, and Rav, what was Rav thinking? Rav was thinking of the expression we had a few days ago. And Rav says, Ein Adam Dorim Nochad B'Kfifa. You cannot live with a snake in the same cage. In other words, okay, he'll run to court, the court will force him to think tomorrow he'll stop giving again. Every second day she'll be in court. What kind of life is that? Either the guy is willing to share or not. Kisolik Rav Zeda went, went up to Israel. Ashker Rabbi Yomi Bar Yefet the Yosef Satu Kamla Mashmei Rabbi Yechon. Said the name Rabbi Yechon. Same thing, like Rav. On Malaysia, he made a comment. Outdoor Achsu sign Loza Bubble, but Loza was attacked in Bubble for saying such a svara that we force them to divorce. Better don't break up a home. Let them try to work it out. Asi. When he's forgetting, we knew what he forgot. Yeah, but remember a lot more than that. When he started forgetting, so he's forgetting the style of learning. The style of learning, now you forget what he learned. The style of learning a bubble so that he can take on the style of it. And yesterday we learned that the Babylonians were not as smart as the Israelis in learning. But once the Babylonians went to Israel, it was twice as smart as that. Which means the Babylonians were smarter than Israelis, but the Israelis had a better way of learning. That's what it seems to me before. Even though Allah is always like a Babylonian versus the Shami. Anyway, Rabbi Yehuda says Neir Masi. Ein Ma'asin Ela L'Pseilis. With that Ein Zayin Amar Aleph, about 6 lines at the bottom of the page. Rabbi Ashi says Ein Ma'asin Ela L'Pseilis. The only time we force a man to divorce his wife is if he's living with somebody that is forbidden al pi halacha. He said, for example, force them to divorce. If you see a Kohen married a divorcee, force them to divorce. Mamzeres and Sin Yisrael, or a Mamzeres or a Sin to a Bas Yisrael. Bas Yisrael and Sin a Mamzer. I will not see if somebody's married to a woman, married to a woman who for 10 years, he didn't have any children, but before that you should divorce, and so on. Ain't Koifin Oisei. We don't force. And why don't we force? We'll see in a minute. But Tachlifa said name of Shmuel. So you see that Shmuel's name is mentioned a lot more often in this painting than Rav. Even in this case, where he's married for 10 years, below Yoda kids, we force them to divorce. Technically, that's halacha, but we don't do that. So Shmuel says we don't do that. So now we learned we ask a question. In our mission it says, which cases do we force to divorce? We say Mukashim, Baal Polipas, Rameir says the Chacham and Limon Mukashim. Why doesn't it mention 10 years? It's being Shlem Ravasi, according to Ravasi. I understand the Rabbanon Tony, the Raisa like Tony. So he says, Ravasi says that those which are the Rabbanon. Why? In other words, why doesn't our Mishnah? The question is, why doesn't our Mishnah also mention that we force Kohen Gadol to divorce his almana, or Kohen Hedi? We're talking about cases that a man is forced. So it's very simple. Things which are Mahatayda we don't include, but things which are Drabanan we include. All the cases are Drabanan. There's not in the Torah that says that you have to divorce, a Mekamed to Mitzar Drabanan, and the things which are Mahatayda we don't bother mentioning. Fine. However, El Tachlifa Baravima says. that somebody's married for 10 years, no children, which is a mitzvah in the Torah per group. We force, so why is the Mishnah counted? You tell me that all mitzvahs in the Torah are included, so why don't you mention this? And don't tell me because this is a mitzvah say per group, Almana the Kohen Gadol also, or other cases are. At least in Nasi Isha Shonim Lo Yolda. Okay, we force them. Why don't you also mention that? Now, what's the kasha? L'chayda it's Mahat Torah, and Mahat Torah we don't mention. Mahat Torah, you don't have to divorce your wife if you're married for 10 years. Marry another woman. Mahat Torah, you can live with 5 wives. So go ahead, marry a second woman, and you'll have children from them. You don't have to divorce your first wife. The Rabbanan said, we want you to divorce the first wife because other women are not that happy to be the second fiddle. Other women would like to be the only wife. But that's that. But in those days, even when we were allowed to marry as many as we want, women weren't very happy about it. So therefore, the Rabbanan said, divorce your wife so that the second wife can marry. Fine.
They call the extra wife a Torah.
That's right. Exactly. We force them to divorce. Why didn't you mention the Mishnah if that's true? Our Mishnah is talking about you force to the extent you beat him with a stick to divorce his wife. But you really force him. But in the case of married for 10 years, we cajole. We use words. No force. Maskara Baba, what are you talking about? It says in the plastic and that words will never harm me. But vodim lo yusar of it. With words you'll you'll never be able to train somebody just with words. You have to sometimes use force. Ela Baba haba haba shuta. You're right. 10 years and no children. We would in the old days we would force them to divorce. So what's the difference? Why did the Mishnah mention awesome ki amra have been the bahada in all the other cases that there's a foul smell and we want to force the husband to divorce her? If she says I'm happy to stay on with him, shafkinillah. When it comes to Puravu, I forgot the Umrah Havina Bade. Even she said, look, I'm happy to stay on. We don't allow her. We don't allow her to stay on. Why? Because he has a mitzvah Puravu. So therefore, it's not included. Mukashchin is counted in the Mishnah, and this is the raya about the pandemic. The Av forgave the Omra Havina Bahada. Even she clearly says, I don't mind. He says, I don't mind. She says, I don't mind. I'm happy to live with him. Lo Yishav Kinla. We do not allow them to live together because she is causing him harm. Now we live in the Mishnah. Pieces fall off. She is causing him harm. And this is the basis for what we just learned in the Teresh Yisrael. Why during a pandemic you're not allowed to have any Yiddish carers to come in. Uktani Hasam, and we learned over there. Ki amra daina bahade. If she says, I'm happy to live with him together, but I won't have any relation, whatever it is, bisada shafkinula. Only if that witnesses to make sure that they don't have actually any intimacy. Otherwise, we would not allow them to live together. So the Gemara says, and over here, so the Gemara says over there with witnesses we allow. That's why the Mishnah mentioned it. In other words, there is a case where we're going to allow witnesses that say that make sure that nothing happens. Okay, then we allow. So all the other cases in the Mishnah, Mitzarav, Nechayish, all that. If she said, I want to live with him, you can live with him. We allow them. Mukachin also is included because there's a way that you can live together. But when it comes to Puravu, what's going to help? However, so what would help? We want you to divorce your wife so you can marry another woman and have children. Therefore, it's not mentioned in the Mishnah. An old person in Islam told me 24 different types of mukashchin, affliction of shchin, boils of leprosy. And all of them, if you have intimacy, it exacerbates whatever that ailment is. But this disease knows that Bali Rasan is kosher mikulun, the most difficult one. What exactly causes these diseases? The Tanya we learned. Heikis dam. In those days, they used to let blood all the time, and we used to learn that there's all kinds of laws that you have to make sure, about fasting and eating and what you can eat, and be very careful, because it seems it made them very vulnerable. So somebody was makis dam, which weakens you, and vishimish, and then he had the tashmish with his wife. Havenly will have burning children, visikin, very weak. Hikizush name, if both of them let their blood, vishimshu, and then they had relations. Havenly burning, they'll have children, bale rosa. This disease that we're talking about now, they'll have. What exactly is bale rosa? We'll see in a minute. We'll see in a minute. Yeah, Rashi says here it was a little insect or some kind of like a parasite or a bug that was sitting on the brain, underneath the skull, on the brain. This is all talking about when we said that it's dangerous, harmful if you didn't eat anything. If you ate, you gave yourself strength, and last there's no danger. My simone, what exactly is the result? What kind of children do they bear when they both had hakazas dam? First of all, dolphin eine, their eyes are always tearing. The diven nechire, and their nose is always running. And the isoladim pumin is always saliva coming out of running out of his mouth. And the Rami Didvi Alayu, and there's always flies attracted to them. My Asuse. So what's the cure? Amar Bai says different kinds of herbs. I'm not sure what they are. One is called pila, a herb called pila, and one is called lunda, another herb called lunda, and girda the agoiza, and the bark around a tree, a nut tree, and girda the ashpa, and also the pieces that fall off, leather. The waste of a leather, and the kolil malka, some other kind of a herb, umischala the dikla sumka, and again the leaves or something, or the bark that's protecting these immature dates, which are red, they're like little nuts. The shalaglu bahadi adodi, cook them all together. Umaayla the base of the shiship, bring them into a place where there's no wind. So like a house of marble, we learned that a house of marble does not allow the wind to come in. And the Eloy, if you don't have a house of marble, Ika base of the shish, you don't have that. Ma'ayla the base of, bring it into a house, the Shav Livne Varicha, that's 7.5 bricks thick. Would have such a house in those days? I don't know. The Notale Tlas Mea Kose Areshi, and pour on him 300 cups of this potion on his head. Aderafia, now this is an amazing thing here. This is an operation that took place 2,000 years ago. Or 18 years ago, the Rafia Arise the skull around his head now became softened. The Kodal Meicha operate on him, and this is like a local anesthetic as well. You cut open his head, cut open his skull, and you have to get rid of this bug. Umaisa arba tarfida, so you bring 4 leaves of a myrtle. Umadle kol chad kara, and then lift one leg of this pest and put it on top of each leg on top of one of these 4 leaves. Umaisa chad v'shakol b'tzavsa, then you put one leaf underneath, and then you pick up with a tweezer plier this bug, the color, and you must burn it. Why? Because this has a homing device. Because the Eloi, harder island, come back into your nostrils, wherever it is, and it'll come back in again. It's an amazing Gemara here. They actually bring this is the first known operation that we have, surgery here and on the brain, and this potion, whatever it is, obviously not only soften the brain, but it's anesthetic. No, but they bring it down. If I remember correctly, years ago when I was doing research on this, the first operations in history. In the Gemara, they talk about an operation, and they talk about. It seemed that they understood this is a local anesthetic, this potion that they were doing, so that they can open it up without. How else you can open a person's brain, or his head and his skull, and he should still survive that? Amazing. Now look at the Gemara says here. This is another amazing thing. We didn't know about viruses and all that. So why did bubonic plague and all that kill so many people? Because no one really knew what to do. It was only in the last 150 years or so, when the late 1800s, we started understanding how germs spread and viruses spread. Look at the Gemara says here. This is amazing. Remember, this is 1800 years ago. Said, Hizaru, be careful, flies that fly, they carry the disease with them. It's contagious. And it's the mosquitoes and flies, they're the ones who pass around. That was not known in the times of Gemara at all. Rab Zayda said that the wind, remember we said you had to keep away from each other, and you have to be 4, whatever it was, there's a certain distance you have to be, because it can spread by the, what they call air, what had a word for it, a projectile, whatever it was. They had anyway, right here, don't sit in the pathway of the wind. It can blow the germs to you. Rabbi Lazar said, don't stay in the same house as somebody who's infected. Rabbi Rabasi, we'll get in quarantine. Remember when the supermarket they said you shouldn't touch the fruits because it can spread? He would not eat the eggs from that street because maybe it has disease. Now this is an amazing thing. The Gemara is telling us everything that we just did right now, the pandemic, which I told you, only in the 1800s that we understood these things. The Gemara tells us back then how you have to behave, how it's carried from one person to the next, how you have to isolate. Amazing. Now, this is the most amazing thing as well. There was a whole, if you remember, the Rabbanim came out, any Rabbanim came out, you're not allowed to daven with a minion. And in fact, some people said that your davening is worthless because it's tefillah ta'eva, because you're going against the thing. Look at what it says here. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, mikrach bohu, Rabbi Shua ben Levi would go visit these people who were contagious, but asig b'Torah. But he did a mitzvah, he learned Torah. He learned Torah himself, or they learned Torah with them. And even though they're contagious, he felt that the Torah doing a mitzvah is going to protect him. Amar, he said in the pasuk he quoted, and that is that Ayelet Ahavim, his beloved rabbits, the Yalad Chen, they will spread charm and grace. If and that's a muscle for Torah. If Torah can spread Chen, won't it protect us from this pandemic? So the other Rabbanim, they didn't quote this Gemara. They should have. Can say that clearly from here, and the Rishonim actually talk about this. How you're not allowed to put yourself in sakana. How we learned in Daf Chesed and Psach, you're not allowed to put yourself in danger. We had also some tinus. You're not allowed to put yourself in danger. But he did because he was sitting and learning Torah. It wasn't Stamazay. So use that as well. If you're going to daven, obviously you have to take all the precautions, not rely on Ism. But if you go daven, the davening will protect you. Anyway, this whole Gemara here is fascinating. But talking about Shuma Levi, how do you know we did the right thing? Maybe he did the wrong thing. So the Gemara continues. Kabishachim is about to pass away. Fascinating Gemara here. Amru Leila Malachamav, the Mahmoud was told by the Malachim, Zil Avileidu, so do whatever his bidding is. Shuma Levi is a big tzaddik before he passed away. See what he wants to do. Azuz Chazle, the Mahmoud came and appeared before him. Amale Achveli Duchtoi. Shuma Levi says, show me my place in Gan Eden. Amale Lechai, okay, no problem, come with me. Amale Havli Sakinach. Shuma Levi said, 1 second. Give me the knife that you remember. You had the knife, and it'll drip come from the knife, and it kills the mason. Give me that. Give me that knife. Dilma mavasale beurche. Maybe you frighten me on the trip here. I want to show you again. I want to see again. I'm still alive. Yavanelli gave him his tool of trade. Kimata lahasam when he came there. Dahlia and Kamach. He lifted him up on the wall. We had more tummy that the base that the Gan Eden is somewhere in this world, and there were walls, figuratively speaking, that were very high. So he put him on top of the wall. Shava. He jumped, and Nafalahu and he jumped to the other side. He went to Gan Eden alive. Nokte Bekan Glina. Machamavas was holding on to the chuck in his kapota there, whatever his shirt, but he shouldn't go to Gan Eden. Amalei B'Shvua, Deloy Asina. So Rabbi Shimon Levi said, I swear I'm not coming back. I'm staying here. What should we do? So he decided as follows. If it ever happened in his lifetime, he made a shvua, and then he went out to Rabbonim and he was a mata neder, then neder. I'm going to be forced him to be a mata neder here, and he'll go back to the world and he'll go through the motions. You remember my cotton we had over there, that Amoraim said, even despite everything else, they don't want to go through death a second time. And that's one that I is for Gilgul and Shaman, the end of my cotton. And Loi, but if he never ever mata neder, and loy neder, he'll stick with his promise. He can go to Gan Eden alive. Anyway, what happened was he went alive. I'm sure Levi went to get the 7 people in the guy. He was one of the 7 who went alive in Gan Eden. He said to him, "Have this sekerai. Give me back to a trade. Why should I give back to you?" Nafka Baskal, a voice came out from heaven. Amna said, "Have Nella, give him back. The the world needs him to take people away." Machiz Elio Kamei, Elio wrote an announcement. Panumakul Panumakul make place. Sounds like Mashal and others say that in Gan Eden, when somebody comes, they announce that he's coming. He make room for you. Make room. Now, why does it say twice? So Mashal says a beautiful thing. The Gemara in Kedushin will learn at the end of the first page that a tzaddik, you already had other places as well. Tzaddik not only gets his share of Olam Haba, he also gets a share of a Rasha who forfeits a share of Olam Haba. So he needs 2 places. So Panu Makam, he says, make place for Balavoy, Panu Makam Balavoy, because he for both of his places. Ozal Ashkel of Shemichay. He went around, took a stroll. Remember, he was all right. It was his goof. He went to visit the Heich of Shemichay. He was sitting over there on 13 barrels there of oil and lit and everything else. And he said to him, Amale Atu Balavoy, are you the famous Bar Lavoy of Ashuma Levi? Amale, hey, that's me. So Shimon said, Nidus Kesha B'Yamecha, was there a rainbow in your lifetime? Because the rainbow is a sign that Hashem is angry. Amale, hey, yes. You're not the Shuma Levi. In other words, what do you make all this a big deal out of you? You're nobody. And because it says it was a tzaddik gomer in the generation, there won't be a keshes. It says Gemara, truth of the matter is, there was never a keshes. But the loy humidi, there was never a keshes in his lifetime. How's it possible? So the Zohar already says about other things. The Abishur could have made it's a natural phenomenon. What do you mean there's no rainbow? You could have made it rain only at night. Never would have been a rainbow. He was such a humble person. He didn't want to take credit for the fact there was no rainbow in his lifetime. He said to many other tzaddikim, Rabbi Yechon and many others, why give him the credit? Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa says, now we'll bring this whole Gemara to show, we'll see in a minute, if Rabbi Shimon Levi did the right thing, learning Torah with next to these people who were contagious. He was a friend by the Malchus. I don't know, very motazach. Rashi says,
or a friend of Machmavis.
Look at Rashi. Shuzbana Oyavoy. He was a friend, the Rogil Etzle Malachamavis. So Shuzbana could be a friend of Shimon Levi, and Malachamavis hang around. Now, you just think about what in the world Malachamavis hanging around Amoraim. Why would Amoraim be hanging around Malachamavis? Think of better people hanging around them. And he's about to pass away. They said to the Malach HaMavis, he's a big tzaddik, do his last biddings. Also the Gabay, the Malach went to him a puppy, and he said, appeared to him, do me a favor, give me 30 more days. Takes 30 days to go over Shas. We had Avashi also every 30 days over Shas. Give me 30 more days. The Amri says, Asher Misha Bol Lekan v'Talmud b'Yadi. Praiseworthy, somebody comes there with a Talmud in his hand. Give me some more time. I had saying more cup. Avashi, give me some more time. And Lekan is gematria. I told you things last time. It says you cannot compare somebody who learns 100 times or 101 times. So he learned only 100 times. So he says, give me 1 more month so I can learn 1 more time. Because it says Ashbish one Lekan. Lekan, the gematria of Lekan is Lamed is 30, Chaf is 20, that's 50, Aleph is 1, and Nun is 50, it's 101. Give me a chance to learn the 101st time. So he wants another month. Okay. Shavka, he let him. Labasat was after 30 days, Ozil, he went, is Chazila, he paid for him. Amalei, show me my place in Gan Eden. Amalei, Lechai, okay. Amalei, Habli Sakina, give me the knife, Dilma Vasabuchi, you might frighten me on the road, on the way. Amalei, Kechabel Baisan Eveli, like your friend. You want to say thing? Amalei, so he said back to him, Chanabab said to him, I say Sefer Torah. Bring a Sefer Torah here. The Chazi, you tell me, Mi'ikam Midi the Kosebeit Lakiamti, is the one thing there written in the Torah that I didn't keep. Amalei, he said to him, yes, I'll show you something. Shumalei is better than you. You know why? Mi ikrachet bebale rosan. Did you attach yourself to these people who were contagious, who got this disease? The asik b'Torah, and you learned Torah with them. He actually says, so what's Gemara pointing out here? This is the bottom line. Shmuel Levi, for him, he did the right thing. Now the question is, can we then rely on that and say that Shmuel Levi relied on the Torah protecting him from this pandemic? We can do the same thing. Obviously, nobody says you shouldn't take all the precautions, 1,000%. But after taking precautions, so those people who said you shouldn't daven during the pandemic and the davening is not worth anything, what do they do with this Gemara here? So they're going to say there's a difference between Torah and Tefillah, because the Gemara says that Torah protects you. I will say, who said? So in other words, you're not as great as a B'shur Levi. Nevertheless, so he didn't get the tour of Gan Eden. He didn't enter Gan Eden alive. Nevertheless, when he passed away, there was a fiery wall between Abchanayim and Papa and the rest of the world. And we know that only one or two people in the whole generation now have this chus. So therefore, we know that even though he didn't have this extra, virtue that Shmuel Levi had, he was still unbelievably great. So the Gemara says further. Part of the Gabe Alexander, Omar, I say Bishul Karoy Chamim. So Rabbi Alexander came over and says, get rid of this fire. Get rid of this fire. Do it for the covet of other Chachamim. What do we cover other Chachamim? Because, so you're putting everybody else down. As good as it is for you, what you're really saying is, and that time you had Rabbi Yechon, you had Rav, Shmuel, you had all these great Amoraim, and they didn't have this. So what are you saying? That the people lose respect for them. So get rid of this fire. No, don't in this world. Don't show too much cover to one person. Like Ashkech, if I didn't listen, I say bishul karavicha, the cover of your father. Like Ashkech, I say bishul cover atzmach, for your own cover. People can't get to your kaver. They want to daven, they want to say something to you. Nothing, can't get to your kaver. This happened as soon as he died. And how are people going to even bury you? How people mastered you? You started. The fire disappeared. Omar Abaye said, why did the fire come out? That Papa. This is not a puppy, puppy and all that. So Abaye said this comes to negate those people that would tell you this is what happened to somebody who did not even miss out one letter of the Torah. Even ois achas, not everybody's good at it, but even ois achas the Torah he didn't miss out. Like he kept it, yeah. Only knows, I guess people were disapproving of him. They want to show that he was unbelievable. Maybe he's coming to negate, says Tobiah. Maybe he's coming to exclude you. The La'isle Michael Igre. You, this is not an ois in the Torah, this is a whole mitzvah. The mitzvah, we have a roof to have a fence, and he didn't have a fence. So Abaya was perfect. You didn't have a fence. He had a fence. But he shited the shadizika. That took that moment, a wind came and blew it over when Abaya said this thing. And that guy then looked up and didn't see a fence. He said, Abaya, he's coming not to get somebody who didn't keep an ois achad with Torah. Coming to the whole mitzvah of the Torah. Why in bubble don't you find this affliction of having this pest inside the brain? We eat budikis, we eat beetroots, and the shais and sheikha, and they eat and drink beer. Shall hizmir from this, I guess from this fodder, animal fodder. Why there no lepers in bubble? It makes tardin, beetroots, borscht is it. That's what it's all about. The sheikhs and sheikh they drink a lot of beer. The reichsim and paras and the therapeutic pools of paras. They are therefore doing very, very well. Amazing Gemara. Sure, Liz Gemara 2 years ago. Wonder how we will look at it.